At midnight, when the tall glass building stood silent against the city's glowing skyline, only one man still moved through its empty halls. His name was Samuel, the janitor no one noticed. His footsteps echoed faintly as he pushed the mop across the marble floor, but tonight, his hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of a decision he had carried for months. The world saw him as invisible, a man sweeping trash bins and scrubbing offices, but tonight, Samuel would whisper words that could bring down the most powerful man in the city. The CEO, Richard Caldwell, had built an empire out of ruthlessness. To his board, he was a visionary. To his employees, he was fear itself. He would walk past Samuel every evening, never once meeting his eyes, as though the janitor were no more important than the dust on the floor. Samuel bore it all quietly, because he had a son, Daniel, in college, and every paycheck mattered. But what no one knew was that Samuel carried a secret, locked away in the very office he cleaned each night. And tonight, he had found the courage to confront it. As the clock struck 12, Samuel paused before the CEO's polished oak desk. His hands hovered over the locked drawer he had dusted 1,000 times but never touched. He knew the key, hidden beneath a loose board by the wall, because janitors notice everything. His heart pounded as he unlocked the drawer, and there it was, a thick file, its pages heavy with lies, fraud, and evidence of crimes that could ruin Richard forever. Samuel's breath shook. He wasn't a thief, but he was a father, a man who had seen too many hard-working families destroyed while the rich grew richer. The sound of footsteps made him freeze. Samuel quickly shoved the file halfway back, but it was too late. The door opened, and Richard himself stood there, his face a mask of disbelief and rage. "What do you think you're doing?" he barked, his voice cutting through the silence. For the first time, Samuel didn't lower his eyes. Instead, he whispered with a calm that came from years of silent suffering, "This file could end you." The CEO's smile was cold, but inside, his confidence cracked. He laughed harshly, trying to dismiss the janitor. "You're just a cleaner. Nobody will believe you." But Samuel didn't flinch. He told him about the nights he had seen single mothers crying in the restroom after being fired without warning. He spoke of the employees whose health benefits were stolen while Richard bought himself another yacht. He spoke of his own son, who studied late into the night, believing that hard work could still change his life. His voice trembled but grew stronger with every word. For once, the truth wasn't hidden in silence. Richard stepped closer, his shadow falling over Samuel, threatening. But Samuel held his ground. "You think I'm invisible," he said, his eyes shining with quiet fire, "but invisible people see everything." There was a long pause. Richard thought he could intimidate him, but the janitor's resolve was unshakable. Samuel wasn't there for revenge, he was there for justice. He didn't want money, didn't want fame. He only wanted to expose the corruption that had crushed too many lives. And though Richard tried to laugh it off, deep inside, he knew his empire had just been cracked open by the one man he had always overlooked. The next morning, rumors swirled across the building. Richard Caldwell was suddenly quiet in meetings, his sharp arrogance dulled. Nobody knew why, but Samuel did. The file wasn't in Richard's drawer anymore, it was in safe hands, in the possession of those who still believed in truth. Samuel still swept the floors, still pushed the mop, but something had changed. People began to notice him, not because they knew his secret, but because his presence carried a new strength. He was no longer invisible. And when Samuel went home that evening, his son Daniel hugged him tightly, unaware of the storm his father had faced. Samuel smiled softly, knowing he had done something more powerful than money could ever buy. He had protected the future, not just for his son, but for countless others. So, the next time you walk past someone you think doesn't matter, remember this story. Sometimes, the most overlooked soul holds the power to change everything. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us share more powerful stories that remind us of courage, hope, and the strength hidden in everyday people. Because sometimes, the quietest whisper in the dark is the one that can bring light to the world. The days that followed were tense. Samuel carried his mop through the building as usual, but now every corner felt heavy with eyes. He knew Richard wouldn't stay silent for long. A man like him, powerful, cunning, wouldn't let a janitor threaten everything he built. But Samuel wasn't the same man anymore. For years, fear had chained his voice. Now, courage had broken it free. That night, as Samuel emptied the trash on the 23rd floor, he overheard voices through the thin wall of the CEO's office. Richard was speaking to someone over the phone, his voice low but sharp. "They can't get this out," Richard hissed. "If anyone asks, we deny everything. And if the janitor talks, well, people like him disappear every day. Nobody will care."